The movie opens with a pastor named Thomas McCord in his church, writing a letter to his older brother who is in the Special Forces. A woman named Jenny arrives seeking Thomas's assistance to escape from a gangster named Reb, who works for the corrupt mayor. Thomas assures Jenny that he will help her the following day and advises her to go home since it's late. However, before Jenny leaves, Reb and his gang spot her with Thomas. Misunderstanding the situation, they assume Thomas is making advances towards Jenny, who is Reb's girlfriend. Enraged, Reb brutally assaults Thomas and sets the church on fire, burning Thomas alive. It turns out Reb had planned to kill Thomas on the mayor's orders, as the mayor resented Thomas's frequent criticism of his administration. Several months later, Thomas's older brother James, a Special Forces officer, returns to town after serving in the military. Upon his arrival, he witnesses a group of cowboys harassing a young black man for no reason. Outraged by the injustice, James intervenes and frightens the cowboys away by shooting one of their hats. After rescuing the young man, James heads to a bar to relax. Coincidentally, Reb's gang is also at the bar and they are startled to see James back in town. While James is ordering a drink, a middle-aged man he doesn't recognize tries to provoke him. James eventually ended up attacking the man. Later, James introduced himself as Thomas's older brother and asked about the location of the church where Thomas worked. Reb, upon hearing of James's return, quickly informed Mayor Pierce. The mayor instructed Reb to monitor James and ensure the former soldiers didn't discover they had killed Thomas. After the meeting with Reb, Mayor Pierce headed to a mining site where he had been covertly smuggling illegal weapons and trading with various groups since his term began. In addition to selling these weapons, Pierce kept some to prepare for a coup against the president. Meanwhile, James arrived at the burnt-down church and met a woman named Melissa Collins. She used to teach children to read the Bible, continuing Thomas's work after his death. When James asked about his brother's whereabouts, Melissa led him to Thomas's grave. Standing in front of it, James was overwhelmed with disbelief and wanted to know more about his brother's demise. Melissa then revealed everything she knew, including her suspicion that Mayor Pierce might have deliberately caused the fire at the church to kill Thomas. Thomas had been a vocal critic of the government for letting Reb's gang terrorize innocent civilians. Determined to uncover the truth and seek justice for his brother, James decided to investigate Thomas's death. Since he had no place to stay, Melissa offered him temporary accommodation at her home. Upon arriving at Melissa's house, James was warmly welcomed by her father, Stratton Collins. During a meal, James, Melissa, and Stratton discussed the suspicious circumstances of Thomas's death, noting that despite rumors of Thomas's death due to drunkenness and neglecting the candles, the truth seemed far more sinister. Melissa suspected that Pierce and Reb were responsible for the priest's death. Unfortunately, nobody in the city dared to oppose these influential individuals, fearing they might meet the same end as Thomas. At another time, Melissa gave James a box containing childhood photos and the diary of the priest, Thomas. James thanked Melissa for safeguarding his younger brother's possessions. Sensing Melissa's sadness, James asked her father, Stratton, what was troubling her. Stratton revealed that Melissa had recently lost her husband and son. Upon hearing this, James felt deep sympathy for Melissa and grew concerned about her well-being. That evening, James read Thomas's diary, which detailed the crimes committed by Pierce and his gang against the townsfolk. He also found a map indicating the location of a mine where Pierce was smuggling illegal weapons. The next day, James went into town to investigate Thomas's death, where he witnessed members of Reb's gang harassing a man named Benjamin. Without a second thought, James drew his gun to defend Benjamin. Afterward, in conversation with Benjamin, James learned that he was the father of the young man he had previously saved. Grateful, Benjamin offered to take care of a horse that James wanted to leave with him, free of charge. James insisted on paying Benjamin because he believed Benjamin should be compensated for his hard work. Shortly after, James went to a bar to meet someone but noticed Reb's gang members harassing the townspeople. He decided to intervene and stop the bullying. James tried to resolve the situation without using his weapon, simply telling Reb's men to leave the bar. After successfully removing the gang members, James met with Captain Lewis, a fellow member of the Special Forces who had been waiting for him. During their conversation, it was revealed that Lewis had sent James to deal with the gangster problem in the city. Lewis also asked James to gather evidence of the crimes committed by Pierce and Reverend since they couldn't legally arrest them without strong proof. Meanwhile, Reverend reported James's interference in their extortion attempt, prompting Pierce to instruct Reverend to send 2 of their men to monitor James and figure out his intentions for being in town. On another note, James met with Melissa to give her a copy of a map showing the location of Pierce's mine. He planned to search for the mine alone and told her to give a copy of the map to Lewis if he didn't return to meet her after a while. James eventually arrived at Pierce's mining site and was shocked to find illegal weapons and stolen money hidden by the corrupt mayor. Unfortunately, some of Pierce's guards noticed him, so he had to fend them off. He decided to go back to town, having confirmed that Pierce was using the site to stash his criminal proceeds. When James got to town, he met Melissa, who was extremely worried about him. She gave him a big hug, relieved that he was safe. James then shared everything he discovered at the mine. Meanwhile, Pierce and Reb were having a heated argument. Pierce blamed Reb for not keeping an eye on James, who was constantly thwarting the gang's extortion efforts. Annoyed, Reb secretly considered shooting Pierce but changed his mind when the corrupt mayor forgave Reb's mistakes and gave him another chance to fix the issue. Reb had to persuade James to leave town, and if James refused, Reb was to make it look like an accident and harm Thomas's older brother. Shortly after, Reb received a report from his gang members that some of them were killed at Pierce's mine. Still fuming from Pierce's earlier scolding, Reb became even angrier upon hearing this. He ended up shooting his own gang members for failing to keep an eye on James. James then went to see Lewis to report what he had uncovered at Pierce's mine. Lewis regretted to say that there wasn't sufficient proof to arrest Pierce and his crew, so he asked James to find a way to link Pierce to the illicit activities at the mine. One night, James returned to town and was intercepted by Jenny, who claimed to know details about Thomas's death. She took James to the horse stables to keep their meeting hidden from Reb and his gang, but it turned out to be a setup. Reb and his gang were lying in wait. Jenny apologized to James, explaining she was coerced by Reb to deceive him. At the stables, Reb and his gang brutally beat James and ordered him to leave town. They abandoned him after rendering him defenseless. With what little strength remained, James made his way to Melissa's house, gravely injured. Melissa tended to his wounds, and James needed several days to recuperate. During his recovery, he assisted Melissa in reading the Bible to the townspeople. Meanwhile, Pierce remained upset that James hadn't left town, so he made Reb the sheriff to legally detain James, ensuring even James's military superiors couldn't intervene. Without delay, Reb, now sheriff, and his men went to arrest James in front of Melissa's house, falsely accusing him of mistreating Jenny. Reb aimed to imprison James, who couldn't resist since Reb and his gang had their guns trained on him. Reb tied James's hands and dragged him through the city streets to the place of execution. There, James endured hundreds of cane strikes in front of the townspeople. Melissa, who believed James was wrongly accused, pleaded with Pierce to release him. Pierce, however, was resolute in seeing James punished and refused her request. Meanwhile, Jenny, feeling guilty over James's fate, decided to flee town. While she was packing, Rem discovered her plan and, in a rage, strangled Jenny to death. After James received his caning, Pierce ordered his men to imprison him. Melissa attempted to intervene, but the townspeople were too scared to help. She then sought her father, Stratton's, assistance in rallying support for James. Using Stratton's influence, Melissa quickly assembled a group of residents, including Benjamin, willing to help free James. She assured them that their efforts would be worthwhile, as James could help overthrow Pierce's corrupt rule. Without delay, Stratton and Benjamin confronted Reb's guards at the prison, demanding the key to James's cell. Since Reb had the key, Benjamin eventually had to pick the lock to free James. Simultaneously, Melissa reached out to Lewis and his squad for their help in rescuing James. Upon arriving back at the city prison, Pierce and Reb had the place surrounded, causing James to surrender once more to prevent any harm to innocent people. Before leaving to surrender, James asked Stratton and Benjamin to remain watchful, as Pierce's men could strike at any moment. When James was outside the prison and unarmed, Reb brought up Thomas's death, angering James. He attacked Reb, sparking a fierce fight between James and Reb's gang. As one of Reb's men was about to shoot James in the back, Benjamin tried to intervene but tragically got shot by Reb. Soon after, Lewis and his troops arrived to halt the ongoing shootout, arresting all the gang members linked to Pierce and Reb's crimes. Unfortunately, the two corrupt city officials managed to flee. James then instructed Lewis to search for Pierce, who was likely hiding at the mine site, while he went after Reb, who was found in front of the church he had previously set ablaze. When Reb challenged James, the older brother of the priest he had killed, James ignored him and shot Reb instead. As Reb was about to confront James again, a large wooden cross from the church fell and fatally struck Reb. Meanwhile, Lewis and his troops successfully apprehended Pierce at the mine site. In the end, James paid his respects at Thomas's grave by placing a small wooden cross on it, took care of Benjamin's son who had lost his father, and bid farewell to Melissa, explaining his departure southward to combat corrupt leaders in other cities.
Hey there, little brother. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you again soon. Take care.